Mr. Auditor, minutes, claims.
July 11th regular meeting minutes for approval and the zoning board minutes to be approved.
Zoning Board. Any corrections or additions?
Appropriate to make a motion to approve both at the same time?
Second.
All by aye?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, minutes approved.
Then I've got claim docket for July 8th through July 14th for $7,118,694.50.
Okay. Any questions?
That's a big number. I looked it over carefully. Holy cow. I move to approve.
Second.
All by aye? Aye.
Aye.
Claims approved. Okay. Next is the recorder with the new renewal agreement. Do you have anything to comment?
It's just a continuation of the current agreement with the redaction that just every 4 years, the current, last, 2019 was the last time it was approved. It just needs to be reapproved by the commissioners.
Any questions? Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
All by aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, at this time, comments from the public. Morning.
Hi, my name's James Komatz. I live in the south part of the county. I asked you a question about a couple of daycares in my area, and I was just wanting to know if you have any updates.
Yep, Mr. Kometz, so I got an update from Jared Baylor. He says our office has completed the follow-up you requested on 2119 East Eaton Drive. In response to your request for evidence of zoning compliance with regard to the above described property located in Vigo County. He goes through and gives us the address of the property. Unified Zoning Ordinance for Vigo County provides a list of permitted uses for R1, more specifically child care home that is used as a primary residence of the person who operates the child care home is a permitted use by right. Not on file are any special permits, variances, resolutions, or planned unit development restrictions. No site plan exists in our records. The daycare opened in 1988. The current use is considered conforming in some aspects and also enjoys a legal non-conforming status as the use has been a continuous and lawful land use having commenced prior to the time of adoption, revision, or amendment of the zoning ordinance. It says he has been assured by the proprietor of the establishment that the state license is valid and current. He's asked and have been granted permission to provide contact information for any follow-up questions we might have, and he provided us the information.
Okay, and that was on 2119
Yes.
Eaton Drive?
Yeah.
What about the one at 2101 that was just built a year and a half or 2 years ago?
I apologize, Mr. Kometz. I didn't even look into that one. I just
It's a,
took the one
it's a
for
brand-new modular home setting right next to Country Kids Daycare,
Okay.
and it operates as a daycare, and there is nobody living there. That was my first complaint.
Okay. What was the address?
2101 East Eaton Drive.
East Eaton. And I apologize too. I did just see your email, and I should have emailed you back. Okay. I'll look into that one as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments from the public?
My name's Debbie Hadley, and I think you guys should look at whether you're going to renew the contract with TransCare or not. TransCare does not participate in with the largest insurance carrier. More lives are covered by Anthem in Vigo County than anybody. TransCare does not participate. And I took a bill from the fire department and one from TransCare. From the same, one of them was from the patient's home to the hospital, the other one was from the hospital to home. They were both BLS runs. And TransCare's bill was over 1,500 times higher than the city's for the exact same services. The codes matched. And their thought process is, Anthem doesn't pay them enough. But that's doing such a disservice to the people in the county that they're getting thousands of dollars of bills because they don't participate with Anthem. And I think if you're going to renew the contract, they should be forced to participate with Anthem. And unfortunately, the No Surprises Act does not cover ground ambulances, it covers air ambulances, or otherwise they'd be forced to participate. And some of our surrounding states have passed legislation that in their states, the No Surprises Act will cover ground ambulances. So it's costing our people in our county a lot to use TransCare.
Okay, thank you for the information.
Comments from the public? Thank you. Comments from commissioners or other elected officials at this time?
Mark, you want to talk about community correction?
Sorry. Community corrections, yeah, we are starting to paint the building tomorrow. Then hope to get this parking lot sealed next month. So it's going to look better, and that's a big part of building maintenance to prolong the life of that building.
Mark worked with Bob Thompson to get us the ability to park across the street in his parking lot. So if you're going to park there, you're a county employee or a person who is working at community corrections or going to community corrections, you can park over there. Take care of his parking lot, pick up your trash, and keep it looking nice, because that was one of his requests. And then also that paint overspray goes everywhere, so park at your own risk. I would park on the very north side of the courthouse if possible, so you don't get overspray on your vehicle.
All right. Any other comments? Kind of bright in here, isn't it?
Commissioners, Kevin Gardner, County Assessor,
Yes.
and Tammy may have some information on it, but I have a letter of authorization from our CAMA provider, which is ProVal. Last year I had approached you. We have to supply a copy of the legal property record card on social media or the website. So what we did is we attached it to Beacon. That has to be done every year, and it's at a cost of about $3,000. I do have the money in my budget, but I didn't know, is this something that you guys need to sign every year, or is this something that I can sign as the elected official or department head?
Yeah, I would say the commissioner should go ahead and sign it just in
Okay.
case.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I didn't get this on the agenda, but can I go ahead and give it to you now?
Absolutely. Typical.
Okay.
So just to be safe, Auditor Bramble, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve this letter of authorization for
Second.
the assessor's office.
All by aye?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Kevin. All right. So, all right. Any other comments?
I would like to inquire about the possibility of perhaps some temporary shelter space for stray dogs on the, as the shelter is full, the county shelter. I was bitten by a dog 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
I called animal control. Their personnel were off. I didn't have large medical bills. Could have been worse. Turned out to be minor. I live in Marywood, behind the South Kroger, and I just wonder if at some point there could be consideration to add shelter space for additional stray animals at some point, and how to go. I was.
Well, the shelter's a private nonprofit entity.
Okay.
It is not a county or city entity. And yes, there is a plan for expanding the spay and neuter as well to try to control animal population. The county has, that should be at the August meeting, isn't that correct?
Yeah, the county has committed $500,000 and the city has committed $500,000 to the Humane Society, the shelter.
Yeah,
Okay.
for an expansion
Oh, okay.
to, well, like I say, meet some of the needs of the community. So, at any time, I would give the people that volunteer their times and efforts at that shelter to pat on the back, because they have the best interest in the community and work very hard. So
Okay.
that's
So that's something that's proposed for
it's in the
next
process.
month's meeting?
The funding for that, it's been in planning process for a while. Funding will be approved at should be approved at the next council meeting.
Okay. So there's anticipated, or it's anticipated there's going to be some more space then?
Right.
That's
yeah.
good news.
Yeah, they're working on it. I mean, it's a continuing process, but your county has, and the city have stepped up to participate in it substantially to continue to improve the services.
All right, thank you. It's encouraging to find it's currently being addressed. My name is Brent, B-R-E-N-T, McPike, M-C-P-I-K-E.
Okay.
Sure.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Richard Sutliff. I'm glad to be here this morning to meet with all of you. I have some information I'd like to share in document form with the council personnel, representatives. May I approach them, or do I provide that to you? This is in the nature of a handout.
Handout. Please bring it up.
Sure, be glad to.
Morning.
Thank you. The purpose of the handout relates to hobby farm operations. And hobby farm, for those that don't know, could either be small scale agriculture or breeding as such. Okay. In this particular case, I would like to take a moment to review something that I think needs to be brought to the public attention, so that in the future, that when this is confronted, that we will have some guidance from the council on how to deal with it effectively. The farm in question is called the Aisling, A-I-S-L-I-N-G, Hobby Farm. It is located at 1010 East Tony Avenue, Terre Haute. I actually live next door to the farm at 10137 East Tony. What I have prepared today are photographs of the operation and how the operation affects me, my property, my wife, and my 2 dogs, and my lifestyle. That is, my ability to have family over and so forth. So, unfortunately, I didn't provide copies for everyone here, but perhaps the council will make that available on the video. The first document is, and I will take the briefest time that I possibly can, but there are 6 or 7 pictures that illustrate the issue. The first document is the layout of the hobby farm. This was obtained by aerial photographs from Beacon. My wife was kind enough to outline the area of production. Currently, the land is 4/10 of an acre, kind of in an L shape. 4/10 of an acre. The dimensions roughly run 45 feet by 215 by 130 by 100. Now remember, it's an L shape. And that's the shape. If you calculate the area of that L shape, and that's from the diagram from Beacon, there's the L shape. That calculates to 4/10 of an acre. Now, on this area of production, the individuals who own Ashland Farm, Brian and Micah Darling, have 32 goats, 2 hogs, 3 outside dogs, chickens, and a waste mound behind their property. There's a photograph of that, which I'll share at the appropriate time. So, while they may have by record, if you were to look at Beacon, they have 1.3 acres. Most of that is null. The back portion and the house footprint going back is null. And the small area of that calculation that I made, this area is what the family uses for the other 3 dogs, and they have a bench, and there's no animals. So that would be considered their front yard.
Mr. Suttle, if you can address us, the crowd's not going to make any decisions about this.
I'm
It's
not
just gonna be
asking
us.
that. I just
Okay.
want to illustrate this may affect them, someone they might know. I think it's important that everybody knows and be perfectly transparent. Next picture is a photograph of the backyard, which I call the null space. This is where you'll find the mound of manure, of waste, product from the 32 goats and hogs. This has been evidenced by photographs from Beacon, not only recently, but historically, at least over the last several years. There has been no waste management control. Now, without waste management control, well, let me go to the next picture. Next photo is the dividing line between the two properties. It's a single road. On my side of the property, I have done all that I can do by installing privacy fence, rodent traps. I have 15 rodent bait stations, fly traps. But the distance between my property and where the animals are housed is 40 feet from my front door. 40 feet from my front door. There's a picture of the animals. That's not all of them. That's just a group of animals. Here's the picture of the breeding hogs. There are 2 female hogs that are now on the property. This is a hobby farm with the intent of breeding. This is a mercantile operation. I will get to that in a moment. This is I will get to that in a moment. This is a photograph of a 5-gallon barrel or bucket, plastic bucket, that has been used as a bait to collect flies and biting insects. It's 8 inches deep with flies and mites. These are bait stations located around the perimeter of the property. Please could I have your attention? Thank you. Bait stations around the property. Filled with capacity. This one completely filled with capacity. I have 15 exterior rodent traps, bait stations that are environmentally safe. I use a mixture of flour or cornmeal and baking soda. I do not use pesticides or poisons. I don't use strychnine. I don't use anything like that. This is safe, environmentally safe. This picture, to give you reference, is a picture of his state vehicle. The white vehicle is a state vehicle, and the mound of manure taken from my property. This manure can be seen from satellite imagery. If you were to go to Google Earth or Beacon. I've also included the National Agricultural Law, States' Right to Farm statutes for the state of Indiana, USDA. In that, there are a number of statutes. I won't bore you with them. Your attorney's aware of them and has reviewed the situation with regard to the goats. The law firm contacted me last Monday and told me that the number of units would be reduced to 4. However, during the fair period, they brought more units back. So apparently there was a miscommunication between code enforcement and your office, and they brought back more units. Now, why am I...
Mr. Settler?
Why am I concerned?
Mr. Settler?
Yes, sir.
Unit?
Unit is an animal.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Why am I concerned? Because this individual had been involved in hog breeding in Illinois prior to moving to Indiana, and about 7 years ago at his location. So we believe that the 2 female hogs is the genesis of hog breeding production, which is going to be another problem dealing with waste, biting flies, mosquitoes, etc., and odor. Now, according to the Right to Farm Act, they do not have the right to affect my well-being. They do not have the right to create an injurious situation to my health by not maintaining adequate waste control and management. They do not have the right to allow their animals to copulate in free space. That's viewed as obscene or indecent. They do not have the right to create offensive smells to the senses. By doing so, this is under section 32-30-6, called nuisance. They're in violation of those provisions. They obstruct, item 4, they obstruct the use of my property. They essentially interfere with the enjoyment of my life on my property. It is a nuisance and is subject to action. The county attorney has the power to enforce such action, as his firm did with regard to the goat population.
Could I address this
Yes,
now?
sir.
Okay.
Please do.
As you know, you and I have been in contact, phone calls and emails, and I have been out there myself. I see it, and I understand.
Do you believe it?
Do I believe what?
What I'm saying to be true?
Yeah, I've been out there. I've seen it, yes.
And I'm asking you, do you believe what I'm saying to be true? The photographic evidence of
Yes,
what I'm presenting?
yes.
So you do, okay.
No,
thank you.
I totally understand where you're coming from. And, you know, I contacted Mr. Modisett right away and wanted to get a legal opinion on this because, as you know, we have an ordinance that says no more than 4 goats per acre, something like that. And that is, you know.
And you have been very helpful. We have had emails and communication. I have followed the chain of command, starting with code enforcement, then going to his supervisor, then going to you. I know you then went to Mr. Modisett. I've been in contact with Mr. Modisett last Monday.
Right.
So what I'm trying to do is, I was going to attend last Tuesday, but there were a couple items that we got sidetracked talking about other things and didn't address. And let me tell you what those briefly are so you
Okay.
know.
Okay.
One is, when do we unwind the 32 goats to 4? When do we remove the waste manure repository? What do we do with the new hog addition? Hogs produce 10 pounds of waste a day per pound. 10 pounds times 200 is a ton of waste. They have 2. That's 2 tons of waste 2 hogs can produce. They also can breed twice a year. Each litter can produce 10 piglets. How long do the piglets stay producing waste? What are they going to do with the waste? What did they do with the goat waste? Nothing. What are they going to do with the pig waste? Based on history, nothing. So I'm coming to the council asking, according to the right to farm statutes, that the attorney revisit this.
And that's what we're doing, and I'll let Terry speak here, Mr. Modisett speak here in a minute. We were ready to send out code enforcement to enforce this. Our resolution says no more than 4 goats. However, they are also zoned ag, so we have since sent this to outside counsel for somebody that deals with this every day to find out which supersedes our resolution or the ag. We don't want to get into a lawsuit, anything like that. So we've got to figure that out first. So I'll let Mr. Modisett take that from here.
To be zone ag, they have to produce a revenue or a profit of $1,200 annually, but that doesn't mean every year. That's all they have to do.
I don't want to get into a bunch of legal details on the record here, obviously. Or am I on? Okay. I don't want to get into a bunch of legal details on the record here, because that's, any attorney would tell you not to do that. I have contacted the Taft Law Firm, which is the largest law firm in the state, and have made contact to have an attorney that does nothing but zoning laws respond to me with regard to this, to get an opinion. After I contacted the ordinance violations, they had some questions that were raised that kind of caused me then to contact you guys, tell you kind of where we were to speed. We've spent a lot of time on this already. Sure. I've contacted Area Plan. I've met in person with Area Plan. I've talked to Mr. Setliff. I've talked to code enforcement at least twice. So we're trying to dot all of our i's and cross all of our t's with this.
I appreciate that, Mr. Modisett and Mr. Clinkenbeard. You have been working with me, and you have been working with me diligently. And you contacted me on Monday and said that the resolution was to be to 4 units per that acre. Now, again, the acreage allocated for production is 4/10 of an acre, less than
Do you know,
0.5.
Mr. Setliff, when they started this hobby
They
farm?
started as this is the thing, they started as a 4-H project. They had 2 daughters, or maybe 3 daughters at the time, 2 daughters, and they had 3.
So that was one of the questions that
It
code
started
enforcement.
with 3,
Okay.
and now it is up to 32, perhaps 34. It's hard to count them, there's so many.
Do you know when they started, when they exceeded the 4?
Well, I would say they started exceeding 3 years ago. They may have went to 4 to 7 to something like that, 9 perhaps, and it jumped to, I believe last year they had 15, to this year they have, I don't keep track. I have a privacy fence that I put up. It's not my business to know exactly what their business is. They should have documentation on that you could ask for, but it has been growing. It's been growing.
Those were some of the questions that popped up when I contacted code enforcement.
Now, the
So-
other thing with regard to the agricultural license, if you will, is the zone agricultural, again, it's a minimal threshold, $1,500. You could do it with vegetables, you could do it with egg production and such. This hobby goat project or operation is breeding in nature, So they're breeding animals. So on 4/10 of an acre, we already know that they have 34 units, between 32 units of goats and 2 units of hog, with the intent of breeding more. It's a breeding operation. It's not a petting zoo. It's not petting. It's not having a few dogs. It is breeding it's a mercantile operation, breeding for profit. From profit, you can imagine the things that they're able to do with regard to trucks, trailers, etc. Now, I would like to, when you consider the agricultural component, which is the $1,500 threshold, I would consider that the outside firm take a firm look at the state right to farm statutes for the state of Indiana, which is established by the USDA. And I cited Section 32 in particular,
Mr. Setliff,
as it
if I-
relates to externalities that affect my immediate property. Yes, sir.
If I could, that was our analysis. We were aware of what the issue was. We looked at the Right to Farm Act. That's the big thing, that
Yes,
trying
sir.
to figure out what complies with that, what doesn't.
Well,
all
he
those kind of-
mentioned their zone agriculture. I mean, that's.
So I just want you to know, we're aware of exactly what the key issues are
Okay.
here.
I trust
Yeah,
that you will do the right thing.
yeah.
I do.
It's our job just to interpret the law and try to find case law and see what's happened in the past, see how courts have interpreted the law, those kind of things. So I just wanted you to understand that's kind of, so we'll advise the commissioners once we get this opinion from Taft as far as the enforceability of
And
our
where is
ordinance.
Taft, excuse me, pardon me, where is Taft located?
Their
I'm-
main office is in Indianapolis, but they have
Indianapolis.
offices all over the United States.
Okay, thank you. Back to Mr. Clinkenbeard. Did you say you visited the property?
Yes,
What was your conclusion?
there were a lot of goats there.
What do you mean a lot of goats? Can you be a little more specific about that, sir?
I didn't count them, but there were.
No, I'm not asking for a count, but on
There were definitely more than 4 in the front yard.
were there, was it overburden on the property? Was it an overburden of the property?
If I could, Mark, I
Yes,
think the
please.
fact that the commissioners passed this ordinance
Would be,
would to be obvious that
and I'm
the-
going to ask a question, given that, and I understand that to be true.
Yeah.
The proximity of my land, which is separated by that road, to this operation, do you see that as a significant issue with regard to my quality of life.
Again, I think if I could.
He's visited the property, Terry.
You don't have to answer that.
What do you want me to answer?
Well, I mean, all I'm saying is the fact that you guys passed the ordinance, that says everything, that you feel that there should only be 4 goats on an acre, or we wouldn't have passed the ordinance to start with, so I mean, as far as giving opinions and things like that, I don't think that's a good idea in an open meeting at this point, because we haven't came to a final resolution with regard to any of this, whatever.
Okay, there is one extension of the thought process here. And that has to do with the adverse impact to property value, living next to such operation that I think needs to be considered. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You're taking that into consideration?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Obviously, we're working on these, and this thing has evolved, as you mentioned, from one thing to another possibly. So we're working diligently through it, and appreciate you coming in. Any other comments from commissioners or other elected officials? We'll recess. Thanks.
I